Superficial scribblings on sexism. Superficial scribblings on live. Who the fuck needs criticism when I can always be right? Here we are once again on episode 5 of pretty much the aforementioned little song there. The first few lines. I have finally made it to the conclusion of this pretty fucking god-awful essay. Will it be the conclusion of the series? Hell the fuck no, because there are plenty of other people willing to write out half-dashedly how something is sexist. So, once I'm done going through the conclusion and checking out the fucking legitimacy of these sources he had yet to even refer to, we're going to continue on. I'm going to find articles that are going to talk about sexism and whatnot, and harassment, and try to get into what, fucking drugs they were taking in order to have this kind of sort of idea. Bear with me, it's pretty fucking cold in here. I just had some Mountain Dew, so I'm kind of pretty damn wired and chilly. So, let's get to it, to the conclusion. Try to make this as brief as possible, but it's not really fucking that many much to go through anyway. At the risk of making broad cultural and historical sweeps, as well as gross generalizations, it is reasonably fair to argue that females have always been seen as second-class citizens. Of course. Probably in, like, the Middle East and fucking the Middle East and India, but here in the U.S., no. I don't even know how you came to that conclusion. From some fucking text that you saw, that you supposedly have fucking pulled up throughout this entire argument that you've made? Female suffrage is a relatively new concept. No, it's a relatively old concept back in fucking really early 20th century. And we've only contemplated females having the right to vote in Western society in the last 100 years. Yeah, that was a fucking 100 years ago. And we've made a lot of great strides, apart from just female suffrage. But we don't need this fucking gross hysteria of sexism in the Western society. We need it over on the Eastern Front, in India, in China, in the Middle East. You're fucking complaining about people getting attracted to females and making comments like, oh, fucking, you can't be a brony if you're female, or you enjoy the first generation. Throughout the world, there are many countries where females are still heavily oppressed. Not here. And even in the Western world, things could be better. A steady trickle of bills and acts have been passed over the last century that have slowly put women into a more fortunate position. There is work that still needs to be done. And I guess your kind of work that needs to be done is to show the supposed sexism within one show, and that show's fandom. I have to make this noteworthy that this is not an essay against the show at all. It's just the fans of the show. Though it seems to be of the fans of all shows, apparently. Ultimately, I have no aspirations of grandeur with this essay. I know that it will not make the slightest bit of difference outside of its niche circle and the select few people who might read it, like me. And even within the My Little Pony community, it will have its detractors and its critics. However, to conclude, I would like to draw a reader's attention, if indeed a reader has made it this far, to a comment that I received from a male, supposedly a male, when it became apparent that I was putting together this body of text. This male made a point that concerned me more than it evidently concerned him. He said, to paraphrase, or to fucking make up, because you're saying paraphrase. This is the first time you actually mentioned paraphrasing, but I'm pretty sure you paraphrased everything else before, so I highly doubt that your use of the paraphrase is actually going to make his comment legitimate, because you're probably going to eschew it in a way that makes it sound fucking sexist. So here we go. Of course females are marginalized, but why does anyone need to write about it? Yeah, I can see where the lack of context comes in. Of course women are marginalized. Let that sink in for a moment. The person who wrote this comment has at least a latent acceptance that equality doesn't exist between males and females, either within this community or at a greater cultural and social level. Yeah, that one guy. Even if what he said was true, he's one guy. One guy, okay? If somebody tells you that the world is being dominated by fucking frog people, do you believe that person because they just said it? No. You make yourself a little bit skeptical and say, fuck you, that's not how it is. I would say fuck you to this guy if he actually said that. Fucking A, the females are marginalized. Bullshit. Forgive me, I'm really fucking wired. Ugh. He has stated that he knows this to be the case, and yet he is skeptical, almost critical of anyone actually attempting to do. How? He just said. Okay. I think what he's trying to say, if supposedly you're not trying to take him out of context, is that, if this is he's pretty much saying, if this is already obvious, why are you writing about it? I don't know. I guess. And, technically from his standpoint, he doesn't necessarily have to be in acceptance of that. He's just will be aware of it. If it's blatantly obvious to everyone that killing is wrong, and somebody tells you that, that doesn't mean nobody's going to do anything about it, or that he's skeptical of it. It's like, hey, murder is bad. Or if somebody wrote a 5-page essay on why murder is bad, but in our society, we already accept the notion that murder is bad. Yeah, I can see why it would be necessary for somebody to say, why write about it? Doesn't necessarily mean they don't care. It's just, it's kind of obvious, common sense. But who knows? This guy can be spilling bullshit, or he never even said this in the first place, and you're making it up. Who fucking cares, right? Challenging my desire to shed light on a flaw within the community because it is an issue that obviously with a fucking italics, exists in a rather unusual criticism. Are we just to accept the unsavory position of some females within the family? Like I said, it's not to silence your perspective about it. It's just him saying, what's the point if everyone is already apparently aware of it? See, this is the problem with this particular quote. It doesn't necessarily, and this is not necessarily coming from somebody who is fine with females being marginalized. He's just saying, yeah, that's what it is. And he's probably asking you why write about it if everyone is apparently already aware of this. Since you just said that fucking sexism obviously exists in a rather unusual criticism. And yeah, it would be odd to say, oh yeah, we should have sexism because it happens already. It's just a fucking rote thing. It's like trying to justify having slavery is because we have slavery. So fuck it, we're going to just toe the traditional lines. We're not going to fucking challenge it. That is a problem, but whatever. I've already made my appeal about it. You're probably not going to find this video and critique me at all, but I am going to critique you. I will make my comment down below and explain to you why your points are fucking, just invalid. My mind does not work that way, I'm afraid, and I cannot fathom that train of thought, of course, because you've already built into the narrative, so you've convinced yourself that it can't be any other fucking way. It can't be any other thing but sexism. If there is anything I would like people to take away from this essay, it would be that inclusion is, quite obviously, nicer than exclusion. No, it's not always the case. It's not. Because, as I said before in previous videos, if Battlefield 3 starts to streamline towards the COD players, the Battlefield players are not going to like that because, certain games are for certain, certain games are made to be played for certain people like gameplay things. Like, imagine if Skyrim had a gameplay mechanic where you could, like build armies and whatnot. That wouldn't be an RPG. That would be like a strategy thing, a strategy build thing, like a Age of Empires. Yeah, it's more inclusive, but that doesn't necessarily make it a good thing. Because the people who like the game or like to play the game for what it is don't like it for what it is now. That's usually why the Call of Duty franchise is hugely successful, because every single game has pretty much been the same game. And they toe the line to the fans, or to the fans who you like the same fucking things. Not to say that, exclusion is necessarily good either in most cases. I feel that people sometimes forget this and treat others as outsiders, whether that's due to their sex or other factors. It has nothing to do with sex. It's just that, like, if a bunch of fucking feminists want to go at a skate park because they want to empower women rather than actually just wanting to fucking skate, yeah, I can see where fucking inclusivity is a fucking bad thing in that case, because they're not going to the skate park for the right reasons. If you do feel yourself marginalizing other people, I would like you to take a moment to think about the ramifications of your behavior. So my white male privilege has to be taken into account here. Okay, I'm going to listen to this person and try to understand why I'm such a fucking misogynist. Sure, you could shrug it off and say that people like me are overreacting or taking the internet too seriously. Yes, that would be what a white male privileged person like myself would say, God, I am such a fucking misogynist. And while that could be true, I don't honestly believe that there is any shame in attempting to right societal wrongs. Especially considering those societal wrongs don't fucking exist! Yeah! Let's fix the problems that aren't actually there! Ho 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 ho! Let's fix that whole homosexual, gays marrying thing. It's a problem because we say it's a problem. Ooh, it doesn't mean it's actually a fucking problem. Making a difference to even a few people in a small, largely insignificant internet social circle, such as the My Little Pony fandom, still has significance, and if you see something happening that you know is wrong or unfair, I would encourage you to speak up and criticize it. I don't see anything wrong with anything that you pointed out, and most of it doesn't seem very legitimate because you don't cite sources and supposedly paraphrase and actually take things out of context. Don't just let bad things happen. Ooh, bad things like comments. Who can have that? At an individual level, the way you act around people and attempt to influence them for the better can have a larger impact than you might think. Maybe you think about that. Nope. If anyone wishes to refute any of what I have written here, then you are welcome to write a rebuttal. Although I'll remind you that everything stated here has been factually observed. I fucking doubt it. As being the case, and is based on real-life testimonies. Yeah, sure. While these events are isolated and not representative of everyone within the fandom, you are still going to make generalizations despite that, right? You forgot that little line there where you're still going to say, oh, well, because of these small sources, obviously, all males fucking hate females within the fandom. You do that all the time. You do that every time when you say, well, this is only a few people, nevertheless, or although, and however, you still got that. You still got that attitude, and it shows right here. They are the dark undertones that are unfairly masked by a veneer of happy-clappy, self-congratulating that the My Little Pony fandom loves to entertain. Okay, that's weird. Fandom, so that means men and women, right? That includes women, right? Not just men. But I know what's going to happen. You're going to say people, fandom, and then resort to just men. You do that all the time. The issues outlined here, furthermore, are representative of wider issues in the fandom specifically. See? Like I said, bloating minute, minority, little anonymous fucking comments and extrapolating it to mean the whole thing. And some apply more broadly to the internet in general. If I, a relatively unknown person, can be contacted by nearly 100 people within the space of a week who consider themselves victims within the brony fandom, the chances are quite high that these issues of sexism and male dominance are more significant and widespread than might be believed. Well, if that's the case, then I have to ask, are you taking these things as a grain of sand? Because you didn't ask them how they were victimized. You didn't ask them in what pretense they could have been victimized. You just assumed they were victims because they said they were. That is kind of an oversight on your part, isn't it? That if anyone says that they're a victim, that automatically makes it true. And if you're not aware of this, there's people who like to pretend they're victims. You know, Rebecca Watson, Anita Sarkeesian, name a few names there that like to pretend they're fucking being victimized by this patriarchal system that keeps them from speaking their mind, even though they're the ones who are trying to stop people from speaking their mind about what their points contradict with reality. Yeah, I wonder why most of these things I can't fucking believe. Even if they are not, and I just happen to have been contacted by the only irritated females in the whole My Little Pony fandom, then that doesn't change the fact that the people who make up my sample have been victimized and marginalized for no other reason than as a perceived limitation of their sex. So, even if you go back and find out none of these people have actually been victimized by things, you're still going to conclude that there's some kind of sexism. That is absolutely fucking ignorant. That's like Can-Am saying, well, it's like people asking Can-Am, what would you change your mind about fucking, Christianity? He's like, nothing will change my mind. I'll just, stay Christian, whatever, fuck it. Well, I want to live in my fucking ignorance, because ignorance is bliss. If such a thing happened to one individual, I would be concerned. That it is happening to at least nearly 100 suggests that something within the brony fandom is fundamentally wrong. So, wow. So you are going to extrapolate, minute subjects and make it as a whole broader spectrum. Because you're already concerned about just one person. But 100 people, even though there's a lot more than 100 fucking individuals. And as I said, did you ask them? Did you go into further detail or scrutiny about what they were victimized by? Because I doubt you did. I highly doubt you did. It isn't my job to now outline how change should come about. Instead, I would like to simply argue that anyone who is guilty of excluding females in the brony fandom should reevaluate their perspectives and attempt to treat others equally. Okay, I'll make fucking sure that my male privilege doesn't get in the way of females. Oh. It's funny, too, because you were complaining about how females don't have as much representation as men in the fandom. And that's a no-no. That's sexism. It doesn't matter if there's a lot more males making stuff because they can and not because they're male. Oh, it has to be a 1-1 ratio or else it's just oppression. Yes. We need more vaginas making shit, not penises. The brony fandom is flawed. Some people don't like to believe it. Others outwardly deny it, like me. Well, there's flaws within brony fandom, but it has absolutely nothing to do with sexism at all. I have been warned off from writing this essay by a group of people who considered it be negative propaganda. Well, I could believe that. I could believe that was fucking propaganda. Another concerned male told me that I was utterly wrong and that sexism doesn't occur. Yeah. Hey, if you want to actually fucking properly cite a source of somebody telling you that sexism doesn't occur, hey, this guy right here. Yeah, you can sort my fucking video. Do it. I fucking dare ya. One even had the audacity to say that the sample of females were lying in order to make the brony fandom look bad. Yeah, that could be a possibility. Instead of just assuming that they're fucking right. You know? I'm not saying that, like, they could. Okay, I'm not trying to trivialize what they've gone through. I just want to make sure it's fucking valid. Because if it were okay to just assume every victim is actually a victim, then fucking court cases would go off the haywire. People who have vindictions against other people they personally know would just play the fucking victim card all the time, and they would get complete justification for it because, they fucking said it. Obviously, it's true. Okay? I know that's fucking surprising for somebody to say that, but it can fucking happen. Having spoken to the people who testified, I can say with confidence that they are, without a doubt, passionate fans who desperately wish to be a part of the brony fandom, but have been systematically pushed away from it for a variety of reasons that all relate to their sex. Or possibly because of the attitudes, the actions. There was a fucking bitch from this women's magazine that was saying that the fucking ponies were fucking racist because Celestia just happened to be white and Nightmare Moon just happened to be black, or the Royal Guard just happened to be gray or brown. Yeah. Even though color does not have any indication of power, somebody just said, yeah, that's fucking racist because these characters are conveniently colored to show fucking oppression within the society. Or that fucking Rainbow Dash is some fucking lesbian, bi, gay thing, even though none of the characters within the show have any kind of sexual orientation received. Except for Twilight Sparkle, I guess, if she has a crush on Flash Sentry. I guess that would be the only real representation of sexual orientation at all. But yeah, just because they fucking say it, does that automatically make it true? No. You look at the facts. You look at, Twilight Sparkle's purple, Pinkie Pie's pink, Fluttershy's yellow, Rainbow Dash is blue. Obviously, the color of their mane has no indication of their power. It's by their fucking actions. Okay? The actions. Actions make power. Choices make people, not fucking sex, okay? If you still resolutely deny that any of the above actually happens, I would ask that you look a little deeper beneath the surface, so believe the lie, essentially. And if you are convinced that these issues only affect a minority, then it is precisely the duty of the majority to respect said minority as equals. Any argument suggesting that these are just isolated cases or that this doesn't happen often will fall on deaf ears. I don't care how frequently or infrequently something bad happens, that it happens at all is what your fandom and people in general should be fighting against. Well, at least that fucking chapter didn't have an anonymous troll comment. So, my next fucking episode will be me studying this person's partial bibliography. Information was acquired from over 100 testimonies from concerned people who reached out to me upon finding out that this study was taking place and served as my example. In addition to this, the following is a sample of articles read during the writing of this piece and influenced its structure. So I have to go through this, make sure that everything here is not fucking invalid the next episode. Because throughout all of my bitching and complaining about how this fucking essay has no fucking citations, it actually has a bibliography, surprisingly enough. So let's see where this person carved its narrative. We're going to see that next episode of Superficial Scribblings on Sexism. And that will be the last episode that caters towards this piece of crap. And as with all things, I bid you adieu to my white privileged ass.